Welcome to Win Games, looking at strategies for success. Today it's welcome to your perfect home. And we're going to talk about how to win this one in a game where there are probably 3 or more players and what your strategy should be. I'm going to assume you know how to play the game, but there's a couple key elements as we look at the strategy that you need to know about the distribution of the cards. The first is that the house numbers 1 through 15 are not evenly distributed. It heavily favors the 8, occurring 9 times, and the numbers decrease by 1 all the way out to the 1 and 2, which occur 3 times, and the same with the 14, 15. Also, the effects are not evenly distributed. Parks, real estate agents, and fences at 18 each occur twice as often as pools, temp agencies, and BIS. So we'll keep that in mind as we make this strategy. The strategy has 3 parts, and in a victory point game, you're looking at how to make each action you take, each effect that we choose, earn us points. And we're going to take a total of probably between 27 and 30 effective actions, which means if we choose just one thing to go for, we'll likely be taking more actions than necessary at the end that don't earn us points. So here's how we want to distribute this. We're going to heavily favor pools, parks, and the fences and real estate. Those are the things that actually get us points. A lot of points. Pools first, only because they're more rare and because late in the game there won't be places to put them. So you're trying to pick up 3 to 5 pools and you want to favor those especially early. Parks come up quite a bit and they're a 2-point play. They could be up to a 3.5-point play if we can max out a block. So we will favor parks and we'll favor maxing out blocks. And then we're going to make a plan for fences and real estate agents, how many of each we need, based on what city plans come up. And we'll generally look to make a plan that involves 7 to 9 fences and 5 to 7 real estate agents. And we'll keep those in balance. If we have a whole bunch of fences, we'll probably, all things being equal, pick a real estate agent. And vice versa. We will avoid temp agencies and BIS unless we have to. Late in the game, we will certainly take these to fill out our estates. We're assuming at that point that we've already completed a lot of these objectives. I wouldn't even use the duplex ability of the BIS card unless you only have 4 or 5 houses left, because oftentimes you end up locking yourself out of a number and taking a permit refusal because you don't have enough places to put houses. As we pick house numbers, we're going to favor the less common numbers, which leaves the more likely number spaces open, and at the end of the game gives us a good chance of finishing estates. We'll also favor sequential play. If we have a 5 on the board, we want to pick a 4 or a 6 because it works right up against that and leaves a lot of open space. And we're going to use that bottom block first. So if a number is usable in the bottom block, that's a plus. We're trying to fill out that block of 12 houses and then work eventually into the 10 and 11 block houses that have a little more leeway. The cardinal rule is don't lock yourself out of a number unless you're at that point in the game. And by that point in the game, I mean 18 to 20 houses filled. So if it's not going to let you choose that number again, don't take that house number until end game. Endgame, when you're playing with other players, of course, is going to be a variable situation. You're going to need to watch and see if someone's about to lock up. You just need to cut your losses and fill as many estates as possible. But that's something that we can't simulate here. So as we go to place these numbers, here's what it's likely going to look like. We want to favor this bottom row. These are your opening play numbers where you would put that house number, if you've chosen it, in the bottom row. In addition, as we take pools, these are the numbers that we'd like to choose for our pools. And after we've filled that bottom block, if we say have already played a 4, where do we put our next 4? Generally speaking, we want to pick one of these 2 blocks and fill it from the bottom up, nice and tight, with the exception of the 1, 2 there, or the top down. And if we do that, that'll give us a few houses that have a lot of number options left towards the end of the game. I usually put my lower numbers in the second block and higher here just because of where the pools fall. But if I got a 4 pool early, I might just make this my low block and bring my high block in. Let's take a look at how to plan for the city plans. In general, when we want fences and real estate agents, we want to pick one high number from the 4, 5, 6, and then one low number, generally a 1, unless there's a plan that involves a lot of 2s. And we want to design a plan for all of these houses that uses those 2 estate sizes. This makes every real estate pick worth as much as possible. And we want to turn these estates from 1 point per house into 2 points per house, or even 3 if we can get it on that one. So with our estates, the size that we choose is going to be determined by what comes up on our city plans. And we're really hoping to get 2 city plans that overlap. If we don't, that's fine. We'll pick 1 city plan. And sometimes none of them are good. Take the 5th card and take the 6th card. So if these are the city plans that come up, I'm looking for a high and a low that overlap. In the absence of that, so I didn't get, for example, a 6-6 and then a 6-2. I would have chosen 6s and 2s. In the absence of that, I'm looking for something that's going to score a lot for one of my sizes. So I'm going to go with 6s. I'm going to ignore these plans. I'm going to choose a state size of 6, and then, for lack of a better option, I'll let the other size estate that I go for be 1s. And here's what the plan would look like on my board. This bottom row is going to split nicely into 2 6s with just a single fence, and that will also earn me that plan. This second row, I'm going to take 1 6, and the rest are going to be 1s, as many as it takes. And the top row is the same deal, a 6 and 1s. Now I might chop them into 2s first and then 1s, depending how the fences come, but this allows my strategy to scale as much as possible. Let's play it out and see what happens. So we're going to press down on these decks, see how tall they are, try to get them as even as possible. If it's not quite even, then at the end of the game we'll just slide one from the bottom of one deck to another. I'm going to let you watch the decision-making process in double time here. And in the beginning, what we're looking at is the effect. So we flip 3 cards, we look for the effect we want. If there are 2 parks, which is our top priority, we choose the number that's the most extreme or that we can use in the bottom row. So this opening set of decisions was pretty straightforward. There were parks, we took parks. But our 5th decision, you'll see here in a moment, becomes a little more dynamic. We've already taken 4 parks. We're offered a 5th park, however, it would force us out of the bottom row. We're going to take the fence because it favors that bottom row, and I'm not worried about finishing parks in the bottom row. We have 8 spaces left. Now we get pools, so we take pools. You can watch through the decision-making process here, and I'll jump in when things get interesting. This next decision offers us all fences and real estate agents. Now the 10 is an absolute no because it would lock us out of 10s too early in the game. The 7 and the 4 both play in the bottom row and they both play sequentially. So we'll take the 4 because we have 2 fences and no real estate agents and because it's furthest from the middle. The choice to take the pool on a 4 at this point is probably the turning point of the game because it forces the 3 houses to the left of that 4 to be sequential. So you'll notice now I'm taking 2s and not putting them in the bottom row because I must get a 1 in the second row. It was a little bit of a greedy move on a pool, and it could force us into a situation late where we don't have a lot of low numbers. Again, taking the 3 because I have to have it for that row, whereas in the bottom block there's a little more flexibility. Notice that when we do take real estate agents, we always fill in our largest estate size first and then move to whichever of the smaller we end up using. Same with fences, we start in the bottom block and work our way up. For this choice, we're going to take the 11 because it doesn't lock us out of a number. It's the furthest from the middle. We need more fences than real estate agents. And if we ever have houses on the board where only one number works, we will favor that spot over another spot even if it was sequential. We've been waiting ever since we took that 4 pool for the 1 to come up, and you may consider it quite lucky that we actually hit on it, but you have to remember this is not a dice game, this is a flip and right. So there are 3 1s in, and apart from someone reshuffling the deck on completing a city plan, you will hit the 1, it's just a question of whether it will be with an effect that you find useful. According to our strict rules, we should be taking the 14 park here, but notice that the place where we could play it wouldn't allow us to use the park. We've also worked very hard to get those 2 houses in between 9 and 15 available to as many numbers as possible, and as soon as you fill one of those numbers, you no longer have that versatility, so we will wait as long as we can to fill one of those. This is a bit of a tough decision here. The 8 park would fit best in the top row where we could use the park, but it would fill in 2 spaces where we have a lot of house number versatility, and we don't want to do that. So we're actually going to take the 8 bis, and we're going to use the bis because we have 2 very low numbers, 1s or 2s, that we need to pick up before the end of the game, and we're not likely going to see those numbers twice. So even though this goes against what would be our conventional advice, it's situationally strategic. This move here was likely a strategic error. The 14 would have kept more card numbers available to us in this row, even though we couldn't use the park. We're not going to profit points-wise from 1 temp agency. But in the end, it worked out because a 14 came up next. Late game situation, we are going to take that bis and we're going to use it to fill in a house number. And even though the 8 bis takes out house numbers that seem more likely, those house numbers all overlap with the open house in the middle of the top row. So we want as much versatility as possible. So you can see with how this scores out, we were able to pick up our 50 plus over here. We maxed out 2 of our parks, and we were able to pick up our 60 plus over here, even though we didn't really get into as many of those size 1 real estate pieces as we would have liked to. We were still able to double nearly every one of the houses, with the exception of this 4 estate, which we only got to score 5 points. And that put us out here at 64. The bis that we took cost us 3 points, but it's what allowed us to put that pool in there, and that pool certainly getting us from 9 to 13 paid for itself. So 112, we're in that 110 to 120 points. That's how you win. Thanks for watching.